Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video. I'm glad you're here. We're gonna have some fun with this one. Stay tuned. Can it be fixed? That's the question. Now this here Honda's been through like 3 batteries in 4 months. Might be something else going on. Could be a lot of defective batteries. We'll check it out and find out. I'll show you guys how to do a draw test on this battery. I'll show you 2 different ways. Let's do it. It might be hard to believe, but this here is a broken Honda. 2010 Honda CR-V no start. Dead battery. Let's get under that hood and see why. I can't even tell you guys the mileage. Towed in by AAA, and AAA put a battery in it a month or 2 ago. We won't know till we look and stop talking about it though. Connections are clean and tight. Either something's drawing the battery down or the battery's no bueno. You're gonna put a battery in and see what happens?
Yeah.
But since we have so many defective AAA batteries, we stopped selling them actually because we had so many problems. I'm just going to go ahead and take it out. We'll put it on charge, and we'll also save some time not waiting for it to charge by putting one of our batteries we keep in stock in it. We sell the Napa Legend batteries, which are actually very good batteries. They look very similar. I almost wonder if they're made by Exide for both companies, but to a different standard or something. Because just because one company makes them doesn't mean they're the same. If they're supplying them for a company that demands better quality, then they'll be made to a higher standard, even if it's by the same company, which I think that's where the confusion comes in. Just because the same company makes it doesn't mean the quality is the same across the board. I've actually had cars towed in from the AutoZone parking lot with these battery caps underneath the terminals. It takes some work to get them on. It used to be the older ones. I think that's why these newer ones, they have these ribs on them, so you can't fit the terminal over the cover. What the hell? They glued it on, I guess. Oh, there it goes. Oh, look at that. Got to clean a brand new battery. I don't like the way that looked, so I cleaned it off. We're going to do an invasive amp draw test first, which is disconnecting the terminal and putting an amp meter in between so you can see what's being pulled through the amp meter to run a circuit. And you'll have to answer the phone as well. Let me get this set up and I'll show you what I did when we come back. I got a pair of curved vice grips, a little bit old so the teeth are worn out, because I don't want to remove metal from that. I just want to get a decent connection. So I put it on just a little snug, not crazy, so you don't crush the lead. These battery posts are very soft material. All I want is something to clamp onto. And these battery terminals are too big. So I'm going to take my ES304B buddy tester. You don't want this to touch. I can hook it up this way so it'll stop it from touching. And I clamp this other end to the pliers. And then I use the fuse attachment. This is actually for checking draw in a fused circuit. But you can use it for test and draw on anything. Connect these to each side of this fuse portion of the tool. Turn this on. Zero it out. And then disconnect this. Make sure it's zero. Okay, it is. And I'm going to let this sit about 10 minutes. And we'll wait. We'll come back after about 10-15 minutes when the modules all go to sleep. You have to let them calm down. Don't keep the keys in the ignition or in the doors, because that can keep a module awake. Give it a little time. Some cars take longer, but you give it a decent amount of time, anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes for most cars. And then you'll see what the amp draw really is after everything's gone to sleep. If it stays at 0.3, we got to find out why. If it goes to 0, it was just a bad battery. This is the other way you can test. This is a non-invasive amp draw test. I put my little Kaiwitz tester on the 60 amp, which is the lowest amp reading it goes to. And then you put it around the cable. And this is reading 0.33. So we'll see if this reads very similar or not. It's got to be a good connection. I don't want to disturb anything. 0.29. 0.23. Bouncing around a little bit. So it's about the same. So both tools. This is an invasive test because you're disturbing the circuit, which I normally wouldn't do an invasive test because of the time you have to wait for reset. This one you can test, you have to zero it here with a Z. With this tool you can test without disturbing anything. It's really great for a car that's been sitting overnight and you want to see if there's an amp draw in the morning. You don't want to disturb anything. You just put this around the cable. You get an idea. It's not quite as accurate as the invasive test, but it does work. It's just another option. This has been sitting now for about 15-20 minutes. I still got 0.3. So it's time to start popping fuses out of there and see if we can find out where the amp draw is. One of these fuses, when I pull it out, this will drop to 0 or close to 0. Anytime you wonder how much it should be drawing, it should start with a 0. 0.0 something. If it's 0.08, that's fine. As long as there's a 0 in the tenths. Let's get into this fuse box, start pulling some fuses, see what we can find. There's two ways to test to see which fuse is pulling the amp draw. It's been quite a while. We still got 0.3. You could pull the fuses out one at a time and see when you lose your amp draw. The problem is you wake modules up and all doing that. So another way is use your voltmeter, and one of the fuses that's causing the problem, or more than one, will show voltage, because as it's keeping something awake or on, voltage is pulling through the circuit, right? So put your negative and positive on the fuses. Put this up where I think you can see it a little better. Try not to disturb things. This fuse here looks like the culprit. Gotta get a good connection. Not too easy to do. This negative is a little bit chubby. There's something being pulled through that fuse. Should read 0. You see how that one reads 0? Go to this fuse. It's showing me something, millivolts, coming through it. So I know there's something happening on that fuse. So now I'm willing to take the risk and pull the fuse out and see if my amp draw goes away. That's 10 amp fuse. Nothing. So that's the culprit. Now it's higher amperage, and it'll step down, I guess, eventually. We'll see. If there it is. It steps down to 0.37, but never completely goes away. That fuse goes to, it says fuse 23, 10 amp backup. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll look at the wiring diagram now and see what that fuse goes to. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to a door latch or a tailgate or some kind of interior light. Although I did look in the interior very carefully, try to see if I could see a glove box or a kick panel light or something on, and I couldn't see anything on in there. But if one of the latches is sticky, then it'll think it's trying to close a door latch or something and just pull a little bit of current and never really latch or unlatch. It'll just kind of sit there trying to activate, and you won't be able to find it. Sometimes banging on the door latches and the doors will make it go away. And sometimes you just have to replace a component or lubricate things, whatever. But that's just to help figure out which one's causing the problem, really. So let's do that. Let's go around, smack on these doors, and see if we can get it to go away. And pull a wiring diagram, see what it goes to. As a matter of fact, I'll do that first. Get a wiring diagram, see what it goes to. Then I'll know whether to mess with the door latches or not. Looking over this wiring diagram, here's fuse 23. It's a 10 amp jobby. Goes through a connector into the dash, and that powers up the fuse box, which they also call this a multiplex control unit, MICU, I believe. And it goes right here into this little box, which this thing takes inputs from ceiling lights, cargo lights, ignition key switch, gauge control module. I don't think it has to do, well, yeah, it does come down here to some other things. So this could get a little time consuming. Navigation, immobilizer, keyless entry, audio, hands-free link, vanity mirrors. So now I'm going to go to my backup plan, which is messing with door latches and switches and seeing if one of the lock switches might be sticky. So let's do that. I'll show you guys something interesting. The driver's door lock switch works. Open and closes the door. Of course, my amp draw goes up when I do it. Passenger door lock switch does not work, and it feels really odd. You see how it kind of stays? I think it's in this switch. I think this switch has a slight connection inside from a short, and it's trying to work the door locks. It definitely feels odd, so I tried to manipulate it to where it felt a little better. We'll give this a second to calm down and see if it drops off. We may have to take the door panel off and unplug that switch, see if it goes away, so we'll have to get extra time for that. I'm also going to have to put the battery box on once we get this all done. I think this battery, we're going to try to charge it, but usually when they get pulled down that low, they don't come back. Let's see what this thing does here in a second. We'll come back. All right, customer approved the door lock R&R. We're going to make sure this door lock switch, I mean, it's obviously bad. It's not recovering when you push it down. So I think it's keeping that MCIU or MCUI module awake. I think if you guys saw the other video, then you know a little bit about this Honda CR-V. Anyway, the customer says the problem started after someone worked on this door, which a mechanic didn't cause the problem. The switch is bad, but it's hard to explain that to people. So long story short, a couple of Phillips screws, and I believe this thing either lifts up or pulls straight out. There's a screw hidden under here. I took the cover off already. 2 screws in here, and there's supposed to be a screw in there, but there wasn't when I took the cover off. That makes me a little sad, but that is the mechanic's fault that worked on it, but it didn't cause the problem. Let's, oh, this has been patched up a little too, so we'll have to pay attention to that when we put it back together, because if it falls off on me, then it's me's fault, or my fault, however you do that. Let's get these screws out of here and see what, I'm going to unplug this switch and see if my draw goes away from the battery. Remember, it was pulling 0.4 amps. Let's do it. Come over here. I'm guessing this one goes in the armrest because it's a little screw. And I don't think it's supposed to be that little. Yeah. I'll find a bigger screw to put in there, and I'll put that little one in there. Sometimes there's a screw under here too, but I don't feel one. Oh, there is. Look at that. There's no cover on it. Ha! That's pretty cool. That's why you give it a firm pull, but not too crazy. You always gotta suspect something's wrong. That's terrible news. It's one connector for the windows and the locks. Someone's been poking this with wires. Someone's been poking the wires. That's what I'm trying to say. I think they had someone already looking at this and they wasted my time, didn't tell me about it. But there's wire pokes in here. Worst case scenario, we can cut whatever that switch grounds or powers. I have to look at a wiring diagram and see. But first, I'm going to hang this back up here so I don't hurt the cables. And I'm going to see if I lost my amp draw. Alright, we got the old Kaiweets HT206D on there. I zeroed it out. It was showing like 1/10 of an amp. I zeroed it out. I'm going to put the fuse back in the MCIU location, and it'll probably, amperage will spike up till it goes to sleep. There it is, 1.2. We'll give this a few minutes and see if what it drops down to with that switch on. Oh, there it did. That was quick. That was what, 10 seconds of me yapping? Now, I'll plug that switch connector in again, and we'll see if this goes up. We'll come back and show you what it looks like with it plugged in. I went over there and plugged it in, full disclosure. When I plugged it in, the door lock went click. So that thing's stuck on lock. So, but we'll go through the motions here and show you what it looks like now with it plugged in, and once the module will go back to sleep again. I'm going to not edit this down and leave it in real time, see how long it takes. I think it's only a minute, not even. Oh, you know what? I gotta close the door. Now we'll go to sleep. And it should be pretty quick too. Oop, there we did something. 0.3 of an amp. It'll never go below that, I believe, unless I got that door lock switch in just the right place to stop the problem. But when I plugged it in, I heard the door lock. I'm like, well, that sums things up. Let's go unplug it again. Alright, it's unplugged. Oh, that was quick. Nothing. Okay. Needs a switch assembly, which we can't find. So I'll see what they want me to do. I might have to cut the wire that powers the door locks and then butt connect it back together once we can get a switch assembly. They're not available from the dealer. We found a couple used online, which you're taking a chance because they all have that problem apparently. It's a very common failure. So let me let them know up front that's definitely what it is, and we'll see what we do with this card next. Alright. Someone's already replaced this before. So they broke the ear off of it. Because that way you don't have to take this whole bracket apart and try to get in there. So this looks like someone probably put a used one in it or something, and these are high failure items, so used is not desirable. Oh, just got to pop the door panel back on, verify our work. You guys felt. I'm putting this, found me a nice meaty screw to put in there. It's an armrest, so let's take the old Kaiweets and see what kind of amp draw we got after we let this thing rest a minute. Right after shutting the door, you're at almost an amp. So we'll give this thing a minute and see what happens. I'll go put my screwdriver away. Alright guys, that's gonna bring us to a close for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it enough to torque the like button down the bottom of the screen right there. Maybe subscribe. I hope you guys are having a great year so far. So you know, I hope I see you in the next video, and you know why? Because you're awesome.